Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles was in front of a mic again today for the first time since November 26th. So we got a lot of questions about the Michigan game, but I was more intrigued by what he's saying about how Ohio State is going to defend its next opponent, which is Georgia, on Saturday in this Peach Bowl playoff semifinal. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com along with Stephen Means. And my assertion all along, because we've talked about how Ohio State has looked against some good tight ends this year. Michael Mayer in the season opener from Notre Dame, some other guys along the way, and they've mostly been neutralized, not like they've gotten burned a lot. Michigan got them with a couple big plays, but Michigan got big plays from a lot of places against Ohio State. I don't know if that was tight end specific. But my contention has been that maybe those earlier lessons don't apply. But Jim Knowles kind of put that back in my face today and said, no, that's definitely valuable experience. It's something Ohio State can build on. Do you think those things are going to help determine how Ohio State, because they were really happy that they could come out with not a real special alignment and neutralize those tight ends earlier this year?
Yeah, I think it gives them a starting point, which is what he was trying to voice there. It's not like you're starting from scratch trying to figure out how to cover tight ends. Now, it's two of them, so it's maybe a little bit more thought process into this, but you've also got 30-plus days to prepare for that. I mean, even more than that, because you weren't playing in the Big Ten championship game, having to prepare for that, while Georgia was preparing to play in the conference championship game. So it's a starting point, and then you can kind of throw ideas at the board. I don't know, playing a kid who should be in high school right now named Sonny Styles and just throwing him out there and seeing, can he cover him? Do you think Still Chambers could cover him? Would you be putting Lathan on him, Ronnie Hickman on him, Josh Proctor? Just keep throwing. You can throw a million different things at the list, but you already know where your foundation is. And that's, I think, more than anything, what Michael Mayer has provided.
Yeah, I think what makes it tricky is that these aren't similar tight ends. You've got Bowers, who's a very, very athletic guy, a kind of one of those prototypical hybrid receiver tight ends almost, something that Ohio State hasn't really employed or used or sought in a lot of ways. And then on the other side with Washington, just a house of a guy, just a massive guy. And the same athlete, asking that guy to cover both of those guys can be a tricky combination. Knowles today said that previous experience is important, but you might have to get multiple with it. You might have to do something, a different wrinkle. Lathan Ransom had said he thought that Ohio State didn't have to do very much special. It was more just a matter of execution. But as he brought up himself, what do you do on scout team to prepare for you can't put DeJuan Jones out there to be a tight end. I guess you could. That might have been fun. I would just be surprised if they could just come out and do their base personnel with two linebackers and the same safeties and have that work the whole game. I imagine, one thing Jim Knowles said today was that because Georgia is so good at everything, you have to come in with some change-ups, as he called it, to throw them off balance and kind of keep them guessing. And I think that could come into play in terms of the scheme here. And the guys that you're mentioning, Josh Proctor is a really interesting one because he is so experienced and has some size. Does he make sense as your nickel safety or something like that, or a Sam linebacker look? We're getting into nitpicking a little bit there, depending on what you want to call it when he's on the field. But could he just be on the field more because you want that bigger body to try to match up with these guys?
I can't believe we didn't do this when we were at practice today. We get one more practice. Maybe we should just see who's playing Brock Bowers and the other. I know who's playing Brock Bowers. It's Zach Herbstreit is playing Brock Bowers, so we do know that. We probably should find out the other one. When we get one more practice to do that, though.
Well, and there's nobody, though, of that size, really, that they could put out there. But Bowers, yes, definitely Herbstreit was Bowers because I saw the stash through the face mask. It was definitely Herbie Jr.
It looks great. Now, I want to see Brock Bowers for this. But to the serious point here, the one thing I did, you talked about their size. We got a chance to talk with Brock Bowers today. He was not as big as I thought he was going to be. So how does that flip things? Because on film, he looks humongous, but he's also in pads. So, yes, he's super talented. Let's not take that away from there. But when you see that body type in person, maybe you do feel a little bit more comfortable just putting Lathan Ransom or putting Ronnie Hickman on him, even if it's hey, you got to focus even more on this because he's better than the guy you faced earlier. But that's going to play a role in this. We're talking about different body types. We're talking about how do you match up. Well, it looks like physically Lathan Ransom should be able to handle Brock Bowers, even if it's not his job the entire game.
I think the more crucial thing is something Jim Knowles brought up, and these one-on-one matchups are important. But he said you watch Georgia on film, and everybody in the world knows that these are two great tight ends, and yet they're wide open all the time. How does that happen? That was literally the question he asked, how does that happen? And it's because Georgia schemes it to get them open that much. So how is Ohio State preparing for that? How is Ohio State having its eyes in the right place, following its fundamentals, and being in the right places to not let those guys get wide open? Because we can talk about all the one-on-one situations and trying to win those. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. When those guys are wide open, you have lost it. You lost some, and it's going to probably kill you, especially if it's Bowers. Like, Bowers is a very explosive player from that position and can flip a game pretty quickly. So that's something to watch for. We'll be talking a lot more about this on Buckeye Talk throughout the week. And get the text 614-350-3315. It's a 2-week free trial before you get the $3.99 a month. So you can try us out pretty much through the rest of the postseason here at Buckeye Talk.